Egypt is hosting an emergency Arab summit on February 27th, focusing on critical developments concerning the Palestinian cause as the controversial proposal from the US administration increases. Egypt has taken a strong stance in rejecting any efforts to displace Palestinians from the historic homeland. How will Egypt's pivotal role in supporting the Palestinian cause manifest during the summit? What are the challenges of the current political climate, and how to reach a path forward towards a just resolution for Palestinians? Welcome to In Depth. In response to ongoing situation in Gaza, Egypt will host an emergency Arab summit on February 27 in Cairo to address the recent and escalating developments regarding the Palestinian issues. Egypt today has reported that Cairo has held extensive consultations with Arab nations, including the State of Palestine, which requested the summit, according to the statement from the Egyptian Foreign Ministry. In recent days, Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati made a series of phone calls with several Arab counterparts to mobilize regional efforts in a bid to thwart the US proposal of displacing the Palestinian people, the news outlet added. Additionally, Arab foreign ministers addressed the latest developments of the Palestinian issue and the catastrophic conditions in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. This is also according to the statement released by the Egyptian Foreign Ministry on Friday. Diving more into this, we're joined from Cairo by Dr. Mohammed Osman, International Relations Specialist. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Osman, and welcome to Qnews.
Thank you for having me, Mona.
Thank you so much for being with us. And we've been seeing Egypt that has been at the forefront of diplomatic efforts to protect Palestinian rights and also preserve their homeland. Now, how did you view Egypt's diplomatic efforts so far evolving with the new summit that is to take place, and what do you think its primary objectives should be?
Egypt has taken prompt action since the beginning of the Gaza war in order to safeguard the foundational principles of the Palestinian cause. Because since the beginning, Egypt and the president of Egypt, His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, clearly said that Egypt sensed that there is a scheme to eventually or ultimately uproot the indigenous population, Palestinian population of the Gaza Strip from Gaza, which is an act of ethnic cleansing. Back then, Egypt made it very clear that it stands against such designs and that it will resist the implementation of such designs, and it mobilized Arab and international support back then. And then for over a year, no one spoke of implementing such scenarios until President Donald Trump was inaugurated, and a couple of weeks into his second term, he decided to entertain the idea, but rather more forcefully, and trying to shove it down everyone's throat by force, essentially. However, Egypt again voiced its complete opposition to this plan. It mobilized Arab and international support, as we have seen. The European Union, Germany, France, the United Kingdom even, Brazil, Russia, China, both the foes and the allies of the United States stand united against such a plan, and also even, of course, the entirety of the Arab world. And now Egypt planning and pushing for this summit, which will be hosted in Cairo. And this has its sheer symbolism, especially that Egypt is not providing over the Arab Summit. This year it's Bahrain. So that's why the Egyptian government, in coordination with Bahrain, decided to host the summit in order to create a united Arab front against such designs, in order to safeguard and protect and guarantee the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. What is being called for is nothing short of a sinister act of ethnic cleansing, which is criminalized under international law, especially international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
Dr. Osman, the Egyptian government has always rejected and repeatedly has rejected the forced displacement of the Palestinians. It was obvious in all its statements carried out by the highest ranking officials and the leadership itself. Now, in your opinion, what are the potential risks if such proposals continue to be pushed forward by the external powers? And what do you think Egypt's strategies to counter such attempts would be?
Again, I will use the words that were used by the Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Egyptian President himself. Trying to enforce or implement such a plan or a scheme to displace or uproot the Palestinians from their lands will be detrimental to the stability and the overall security of the region. And this cannot be overstated in any other sense, because it will actually lead to the expansion of the conflict rather than instead of containing it. And I think that Egypt wants to deliver this message and this entire concept and its actual reality to the current U.S. administration and to the Israelis as well. That Israeli expansionism cannot be veiled under the pretext of the humanitarian evacuation of the residents of Gaza in order to serve the expansionist aims of the Israeli state, which threatens in turn the national security of its neighboring states, especially Jordan and Egypt, whom the U.S. is trying to convince to take in the Palestinians. And actually, I think and I believe that trying to enforce such a scenario would, number one, mean the end of Egypt's strategic and historical partnership with the United States. This is a very, very strong relationship and a very strong partnership that both sides have benefited from, that was established on the basis of equality and mutual respect. If the United States is not willing to sacrifice, I believe at least, is not willing to sacrifice this partnership that it invested on for the past 46 years. And Egypt, of course, does not wish to end its relationship in this manner with the United States. However, if this happens, this is exactly what will happen. And Egypt has other options, as you can see. Egypt has a very strong relationship with the BRICS countries. It is part of the BRICS now. It has a very strong relationship with the European Union, with Russia, with China, with India. So the world is not, the unipolar moment has passed, Mona. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, the Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty might be in jeopardy if this happens. And I think the Israelis understand that. And I think this will be the main the main proponent of the force that will compel the United States eventually and Israel to back down and to abandon such irresponsible and dangerous schemes.
Right. Before we continue our discussion, let's take a look at the upcoming Arab Emergency Summit in Egypt that comes amid intensive consultations among Arab leaders. Stay with us, and Dr. Osman also, please stay with us.
The Egyptian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced today that Egypt will host an emergency Arab summit on February 27th to address serious developments concerning the Palestinian cause. In a statement issued by the Egyptian Foreign Ministry, it confirmed that the summit will be convened in coordination with the Kingdom of Bahrain, the current president of the Arab League Summit, and the General Secretariat of the Arab League. Moreover, the upcoming summit follows extensive consultations with Arab nations, including Palestine, which requested the meeting that aims to tackle escalating challenges facing the Palestinian issue. This summit comes amid widespread condemnation of a controversial plan proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump, which suggests U.S. control over Gaza and the displacement of its Palestinian population. Egypt, Jordan, Palestine, and other Arab states have firmly rejected such proposals. Earlier this month, an Arab ministerial meeting in Cairo reiterated the rejection of Trump's proposal and expressed readiness to collaborate with the new U.S. administration to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on the two-state solution. The upcoming summit underscores Arab unity and safeguarding Palestinian rights and opposing actions that threaten their homeland.
Right, welcome back, and let me welcome our guest, Dr. Ayman Raqib, political science professor. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Raqib, and welcome to Qnews. Let me ask you, Egypt has taken the lead in hosting an emergency Arab summit on the 27th of February to discuss the developments affecting the Palestinian cause. Now, from your point of view, what, from your point of view, or how do you see Egypt's role in this summit, especially in light of the recent U.S. proposals for displacement of Palestinians?
After saluting you, certainly Egypt is considering the Palestinian cause in an Egyptian national cause, and regarding the forced and voluntary displacement of the Palestinians, and if it happens, would move to the West Bank entirely. So it was working entirely effort in the Arab, the international level, and tackling smartly that focusing the problem with the Israelis and not with the Americans. So it's talking about the summit to taking place February 27 to tackle this matter clearly, to establish the Arab stance and laying out the mechanism of reconstruction. So I think that would have to fight supporting the Palestinian cause, and the second issue to the reconstruction, and not to wait off the international convention or conference for the reconstruction, or for the Arabs themselves to underway all the efforts to thwart the way before the residents of Gaza to losing hope, and fighting a solution to end this war and thwarting the project of displacement. And Cairo is in forefront as usual, and I think that this would prior the arrangement of the president's visit to Washington, as the media reported. So I think it will be having a great opportunity to discuss all the changes and laying out all the mechanisms that are required for the upcoming period.
Dr. Raqib, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has made it clear that Egypt will not participate in any plans that involve displacing Palestinians from their homeland. Now, from your point of view, how do you view this declaration and how does it reflect Egypt's political standing globally, and what does it mean for the Palestinians?
certainly, the Egyptian stance that manifested entirely by rejecting the residents of Gaza Strip that affirm that such a process is unequivocally rejected. So Egypt will exert all the effort to abort all the plans of liquidating the Palestinian cause, and the president mentioned this in several occasions. And this position will establish the Palestinian stance, and other resolutions and stances will be built upon this. So there are Arab stances are very clear through the previous Arab summits, along with the upcoming summit, and to formulations or the statement manifested in the Arab statement in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Egypt by rejecting all types of displacement. And for the world, when the moderates are moving in the regions, so they should observe the far wing and despair for them such an opportunity, and the voice of the wise should prevail in the region.
Right, Dr. Osman, Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulhadi made a series of phone calls with several Arab counterparts to mobilize regional efforts in a bid to counter the U.S. proposal to displace Palestinians from Gaza. Now, how do you think this summit can solidify the Arab unity in face of such plans? And what do you think Egypt's, or what the role Egypt can play in unifying the Arab stance around this very, very critical developments?
I think Egypt, presented, of course, by Dr. Badr Abdulhadi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he exerted a great effort over the past few days in mobilizing Arab support under the directives of President al-Sisi. He was instructed to mobilize through diplomatic initiatives to contact numerous Arab states, especially effective and influential Arab states, and those who enjoy a very close relationship and a very deep-rooted partnership with Egypt, like Saudi Arabia, like the United Arab Emirates, like Jordan, many other countries in the Gulf, countries in North Africa. So it has spared no effort, basically, and this mobilization has resulted today in the declaration of the date of an upcoming summit on the 27th of February, an emergency summit. We haven't had one of those in a while. And the idea that Cairo is hosting it, as I said before, bears symbolism, meaning that Egypt is at the forefront and is leading the Arab position or the Arab stance against the displacement designs being planned or schemed against the people of Palestine, especially the Palestinian people in Gaza. And also, it does indicate that there is universal Arab rejection to Mr. Trump's plan. It means that the plan of uprooting the Palestinians and replacing the rubble with the Riviera and this nonsense, quite honestly, I think that the Arab world is making it clear that this is Arab land, that this is Palestinian land, that international law is on our side, and that, of course, justice and morality is on our side. And I think that the Arab initiative with this regards can be very, very convincing. I will not be unrealistically optimistic. It's very challenging. At the end of the day, the United States is the #1 power in the world, and Israel, of course, is a very occupying and aggressive power in the region. However, collective action taken by the states, supported by the international community, Europe, by China. China released 3 statements over the past 3 or 4 days. President Trump's proposal, and stressing that the only solution to the Palestinian problem is the 2-state solution, based on the 1967 June 4th, 1967 borders, and also that the Palestinians, that Gaza should be reconstructed without the uprooting or the displacement or the so-called voluntary or temporary displacement of its people. And this is basically, they have adopted the Egyptian stance and the Arab stance on this issue. So I see this as a huge success for Egyptian diplomacy and also a huge success for Arab diplomacy in general.
I wonder if the Arabs really need Riviera instead of a homeland. Let me get back to Dr. Al-Raqib, and with the summit focusing on Palestinian displacements, how can Egypt leverage its influence, particularly regional influence and relationships with the Arab states to prevent such proposals from being implemented?
The matter goes in two directions. The first one, the empowering of the internal Arab affairs, and Egypt has a great relationship internationally and regionally, so that would enable them to work in a larger scale. That has started, Egypt has started already in the first early of the first, that announcing that moved in the direction through the international visits, foreign ministers of Belgium and several other countries, as well as France. So that gains international support. There is a changeable stance supported by USA for the displacement. Even Germany announcing clearly that it rejecting the process of displacement. And Egypt played a very important role, as well as it's going to play a bigger role in the matter of reconstruction, as Egypt is the most important and prominent state in the Arab region. And particularly, the Egyptian diplomacy is unique and deep-rooted in the history, and I think that it will affect at large in favor of the Palestinian. So, even if the Israelis, along with the Americans' insistence, will be very confronted and that which is a very important matter. If the whole world is run by the law of the jungle, so it is important that Egypt to move
meeting in Cairo reaffirmed its rejection of the proposal to displace the Palestinians from Gaza, while expressing a willingness to work with the new U.S. administration on resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict based on the two-state solution. Of course, definitely, as you said, and as repeated and repeatedly have been said by the Arab leaders. Now, how do you view this approach, and how can it be reinforced during or reiterated during this next Arab summit?
I think when we speak of this ministerial meeting, we speak of the Arabs, the Arab leaders, the Arab governments, the influential Arab states extending a hand of cooperation, extending an olive branch. And what the Trump administration and Israel have done was slapping that hand away. And now we are basically what the upcoming Arab summit is expected to be undertaking, if the situation remains as is for the next couple of weeks, will be creating a united front in order to support the displacement scheme sponsored by the Trump administration and by the Israeli government of Benjamin Netanyahu. And I think this will be the stance that will be displaced. And if we look even at the individual statements made by the respective Arab states, especially effective ones. Of course, Egypt and Jordan are in the forefront because they are the countries that would be directly affected and whose national security would be directly affected by such schemes, have expressed their utter and once again utter rejection of this plan. The United Arab Emirates, a country that has recently, a few years ago, signed a peace treaty with Israel, has adamantly rejected Mr. Trump's schemes. And Saudi Arabia, of course, has taken a very strong stance, especially because due to their stance, Netanyahu responded to Saudi Arabia, telling them that okay, if you want a Palestinian state, then you can host a Palestinian state or grant the Palestinians a state inside Saudi territory. Of course, such brazen statements by the Israeli Prime Minister has provoked and further Arab outrage and has further united collective Arab action against such schemes. And I'm actually very optimistic about the prospects of collective Arab action, because this is one of the very few and rare moments that the Arabs act collectively in order to protect their collective national security. Because of the Palestinian fall, then everybody else's safety and stability and national security will be in jeopardy.
Indeed. Dr. Osman, that was Dr. Mohammed Osman, International Relations Specialist, and Dr. Ayman Al-Raqib, Political Science Professor. We thank you both, gentlemen, for your valuable insights today. And I guess that brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up on Qnews.